My name's Olivia. I am a A-level music student, and I thought I'd do some videos to kind of help with my revision, and if anyone else is doing the same things, help with theirs. On this session I'm going to be looking at John Cage's Sonatas 1, 2 and 3 that we're studying in the LXL A-level music course. Okay, well let's start with a little bit of background. Okay, written in 1946 to 1948. He was a Buddhist kind of guy, and he kind of wanted his music to reflect his beliefs as well, so it was quite sporadic and reliant on like chants and things. He also, before he did the prepared piano stuff, focused a lot on percussion, and that helped a lot and influenced the prepared piano. Getting on to the prepared piano, it's basically putting nuts, bolts and rubbers inside the piano under certain strings. I think it was 45 out of the 88 were had things stuck in them for the sonatas, but John Cage kind of said afterwards that any pianist can do it a little bit differently for his own interpretation. Anyway, so there's three strings for each note on a piano, and in the prepared piano you would either have nothing under any of those strings, which means it would be a normal note, or something stuck under 2 or 1 out of the 3 strings, kind of making it a half note and half percussion sound. And then you have the notes which are completely covered with nut or rubber, so that's a completely percussive sound, so no kind of tone in there. And that kind of affects the music by, it can quieten it, it can change the timbre, like I said, by making it more percussive or kind of a harsh sound. And it splits the sounds into one of those 3 categories, the tone, half tone, or just complete percussive sound. And it can affect the duration, so if it's a prepared note, it's going to have a shorter duration. Okay, that's enough for kind of the outlining the instrument. Texture, okay, so it's mostly kind of one line textures, but there uses chords occasionally, like at the start of Sonata 1. Okay, I've got a score as well with like loads of markings on, so I'm just going to kind of illustrate through that as well. You can see at the start there's a G major 7th chord which is repeated, so that is a chord which kind of features as a motif as well in the piece. Monophony, yeah, I said that right. Anyway, monophony in the piece, which can come up. Let's try and find an example of that. There's one in 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 4, 4 and 5 of Sonata 2, where there's just an arch melody in the right hand piano. There's also homorhythms, which can be seen more in Sonata 2, kind of like at the start of bar 10. There's a 2-part texture, which is homorhythm. So the right hand, they've both got, even though there's kind of 2 tunes going on, they've both got the same rhythm, so it's homorhythm texture. Treble movement over static accompaniment. So that can be seen especially at Sonata 3, where you've got kind of a pedal thing. Well, it appears as a pedal, but it's more of a kind of percussive reference, because the note that's being played, an A, is prepared, so it's more of a kind of clinking sound. And then you've got kind of in bar 2 the opening statement of semi-semi-quavers, which are heavily muted and very percussive over the top. So there's like moving lines in the right hand and steady steady backhand. And layered textures, which can be seen in Sonata 2, that kind of flurrying semi-quaver section from 28 to 32, 31. Anyway, so that is it for texture. Structure. He used the micro-macrocosmic structure in his work, which he kind of created himself. It's based on mathematics and kind of a fractal structure. There are fractals in maths, fractals in nature. The fractals in nature are kind of like ferns, trees, or snowflakes kind of thing. The whole kind of premise of the micro-macrocosmic structure is that you have the macro structure, which is the big one, based on a certain pattern, and then the microstructure, which is the same pattern but on a smaller scale. So you have your macrostructure, and then inside that macrostructure is lots of little microstructures which resemble the same thing, a lot smaller. Something you could compare it to, as an example, is kind of like you'll have your TV, and then you'll have all your megapixels inside your TV. So you've got your one big square, the TV, and then loads and loads of tiny, tiny little squares inside it that make it all up. They're both the same shape, but one's very big and the others are very small. So that's kind of like your macrocosmic structure. He based each piece around one specific number. So Sonata number 1, which I'm going to explain in more detail, is based around the number 7, and he's broken that up into fractions, which are, let me just double check so I don't get the fractions wrong. He broke it up into 1, a quarter, and 3/4, 1, a quarter, 3/4, and then 1, a half, and 1 and a half. But because these are kind of not solid, not whole numbers, it's harder to express in musical terms. So he times it all by 4, which kind of like a crotchet beat. So it turns into the ratios 4-1-3, 4-1-3, 4-2, 4-2. And this can be seen in the work through kind of the first, because it's in binary form as well, each work in binary form. So from bars 1 to 12, that's the first section. And in that section, you've got 4, 1, 3. Okay, and to kind of put this up closer, hopefully you can see. You've got, I found it since backwards, 4, 1, and 3. Okay, that was kind of not such a great example, sorry about that, but so you've got 4 times 7, so equaling 28 crotchets, and then 1 times 7, and then 3 times 7. And that makes up the first thing. So that's 4-1-3, and because it's a repeated section, you get your 4-1-3, 4-1-3, which is the start of that ratio macro structure. But inside that, inside the first 4-1-7, it's called 4-1-7. What am I talking about? Inside the first 4 times 7, the first bit of the 4-1-3, it's a number 4 because there are four bits of 4-1-3, 4-1-3, 4-2, 4-2. But that's what it's talking about there. There's 4 little lots of it. And inside the 1 times 7, it's just got 1, 4-1-3. Then in the 3 times 7, it's got 4-1-3, 4-2, 4-2. So 3 little bits of that chunk. Okay, I'm not sure if that's kind of confusing anyone, but it's like you've got your bigger structure and then the smaller structure, which is the same, running throughout the bigger one. And then you've got the 4 times 7 in the start of the second section, then 2 times 7, then it's repeated. So there's your 4-2, 4-2. Um, yeah, that is the micro structure. Whew. Anyway, tonality. There isn't really any Western-based tonality because the piano's prepared. It's like it's not going to be like any kind of tones in the diatonic kind of system, because well, the only kind of tonality you could kind of draw parallels with is the it being pentatonic. There's about, especially in the second sonata, there's about five notes which resemble it, and they can be seen in the tune in bars 1 to 2, or from bars 1 to 8 especially. But yeah, there's not really any tune going, because it's quite chromatic anyway, but because of the prepared notes, even like scalic runs are broken up by these percussive sounds, so it's very hard to distinguish. Harmony. Okay, quoted by John Cage, harmony is a tool for Western commercialism. So he pretty much hated harmony in the Western sense. He liked a lot of Eastern kind of music which didn't really feature harmony at all, kind of mostly based on timbre, percussion, pitch, things like that. So he's kind of stayed away from harmony in the fact that there's no kind of chord progressions going throughout it. The only kind of hints at harmony are the fact that he's used the G7 chord in Sonata No. 1, and the kind of parallel